Summit and GRIT Awards, this event is not just an assembly of industry leaders and sustainability enthusiasts. It embodies a profound commitment to advancing responsible capitalism and promoting green initiatives. We firmly believe that mere rhetoric about sustainability is insufficient. It is imperative that we go beyond words and take concrete steps to transform sustainability into a tangible reality. The GRIT Awards, an integral part of this event, serve as a beacon of light, an integral illuminating sustainable practices and honoring companies that stand at the forefront of these remarkable efforts. Before we embark on the exhilarating discussions and insights that lie ahead, it is our pleasure to introduce ourselves as your hosts for the day. I am VK.
Hi, I'm Mark. We are humbly and deeply honored to serve as your MCs for today, guiding you through the next 2 days of ESG Remarkable Journey. So without further ado, we commence our events by welcoming a visionary creator and the founder of Corpstage, Dr. Nisha Kohli. Dr. Nisha will delve into the very essence of this meaningful event and shedding light on this year's theme. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us, giving a round of applause as we welcome Dr. Nisha Kohli to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, great. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and passionate sustainability champions present here today, welcome to this extraordinary gathering where we unite to tackle the mounting impacts of climate change head-on. Today we embark on a remarkable journey of collective actions and collaboration driven by the urgent need to advance ambitious ESG goals and navigate complex challenges of our time. Last year, our conference focused on leading the way to sustainable leadership, and we embraced the mascot of our symbol, that's the butterfly, a captivating creature that undergoes a profound transformation to inspire us to seek positive change. And here we are today with a new theme that resonates deeply, enabling collective intelligence and collaborations. So last year, when we focused on the transformation journey of corporates, we said that corporates may have to, as butterfly go through challenges in coming out from pupa, becoming a caterpillar to pupa and then to the butterfly, it goes through a very tough phase. That's how even corporates and all of us have to go through those challenges to change ourselves. So I've been discussing this. It's very difficult to change our habits, our consumerism, our demands that we have, and for corporates to forego their profitability to achieve sustainability. But that's what we need. So if we have created a mindset of transformation, the next step for us is collaboration. Without collaborating, we will not be able to scale the initiative, and that's the reason why we have the theme for this year as collective actions. Today we stand at the turning point where leaders must be prepared to reach beyond the confines of their own organizations. So it's time to foster collaborations and build capacity to tackle the challenges. Now, example, if we take some industries, for example, are using recycled materials. Now, how do we know that that recycled component is a standard component? And in that situation, companies in those industries or the sector have to come together to identify those standards which will be acceptable by the others. So we need collaborations internally and externally. Internally within our own organization and externally with multiple stakeholders. We are proud and happy that last year we engaged with the stakeholders of Singapore, and of course it's a global event, but when you do an event in the country, you engage with local stakeholders more. And this year when we came to Thailand, we engaged with stakeholders here. So that way, really happy and proud that we are creating more awareness and sharing the knowledge of the global thought leaders here at this platform in different countries. So let's explore the power of this collaboration, this sharing further. Sustainability targets can be massive and far-reaching, encompassing complex standards. But when individual organizations unite, we can achieve greater progress than when acting alone. Collaboration ignites a spark of creativity. So let's ignite that spark today, all of us. Let's engage in creative discussions, knowledge-based discussions, innovative discussions, and let's network strongly so that we can collaborate in the coming future. Thank you very much. Welcome you all. So we were expecting Dr. Vanida from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Foreign Agriculture Affairs. Unfortunately, I think she's stuck in traffic, so we'll take the sessions forward, and when she arrives, we'll have her keynote. Yeah, thank you.
On behalf of Corpstage and all the participants gathered here today, we extend our heartfelt gratitude for gracing our event with your presence and delivering an exceptional opening address, Dr. Nisha. Your words are truly inspiring, filled with wisdom and foresight. Your expertise and dedication to sustainability have made a profound impact on our society, and your visionary leadership continues to drive positive change. We are immensely grateful for the invaluable insights you shared, which have set the tone for this transformative event. I would also like to thank Dr. Nisha Kohli for her insights on the importance of collective intelligence and collaborations.
So as we begin our engaging day of important talks and discussion, I want to briefly emphasize the main topics that have been carefully selected for today's program. These themes have been carefully selected, taking into consideration the current challenges, emerging trends, cutting-edge technologies, and promising opportunities that lie before us. With our themes serving as guidance beacons, we aim to delve deep into critical discussions and explore innovative solutions that will pave the way for a sustainable future.
Our overarching themes include establishing common focus and collective actions, taking stock of sustainable goals and climate action initiatives, sustainable innovations and circular transitions, carbon credits and nature-based solutions, upskilling, climate education and the talent war, sustainable finance, the transformative journey of corporates, how far have we come, and priority solutions for climate change, and lastly, partnerships and collaborations. Today we have the privilege of hearing from globally recognized experts. For our first keynote, we will be joined by Ms. Helle Jorgensen, who will share her insights on the crucial role of multi-stakeholder collaborations in driving ESG and sustainable goals. Her expertise and experience are invaluable in understanding the power of collaboration in creating meaningful change.
Please join me in welcoming Ms. Helle Jorgensen. She is a global leader in transforming environmental, social, and governance risk into innovative and sustainable businesses opportunities. She boasts an illustrious 30-year track record and has shared her wisdom with Fortune 500 companies. Let us all welcome the CEO and founder of Competent Boards, Ms. Helle Jorgensen, joining us all the way from Canada.
Fantastic MCs we have here. I guess good morning from me, even though it's evening here. I am delighted to be with you today, and I'm really looking forward to discussing the topic that is essential for the future of our planet: multi-stakeholder collaborations for driving ESG and our sustainability goals, as we just heard. But before we dive in, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and praise the fantastic efforts of you, Nisha, and the team behind the ESG World Summit and the GRIT Awards. Today, you and your team bring together all of you that's there, all of those that are online, leaders, visionaries from across the globe who are, I hope, dedicated to driving positive change in this realm of environmental, social, and governance practice. So well done for that. Again, yes, my name is Helle Jorgensen. I am the CEO and founder of Competent Boards. Competent Boards, our organization, is dedicated to equipping board directors and senior leaders with the necessary skills and knowledge to navigate the complexities of the modern business landscape. And let's just be honest, there is a lot of complexity out there at the moment. Every single country, every single region, and even more when we look at it from a global perspective. So at Competent Boards, we have now educated and upskilled board directors and business professionals in over 50 countries. And that includes directors as well as sustainability professionals from Asia who've learned to speak the board language and therefore have accelerated their impact and often gotten the budget and the attention that they deserve. And board directors who have learned to listen and learn from other stakeholders and therefore created much more value for the organization and society. We started Competent Boards journey almost 5 years ago with the support of Paul Polman, then CEO of Unilever, the chair of Unilever, as well as the chair of Maersk and Siemens, as well as CEOs from pension funds and other leaders. Now, our comprehensive, both the ESG, climate, biodiversity designation programs and certificate programs is backed by a faculty of over 180 global leaders and also cover geopolitical issues, political issues, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and all these disclosure regulations that we see coming up at the moment. It empowers individuals to embrace change, anticipate risk, maintain transparent communication, and make those ethical decisions that drive sustainable practices. It is crucial to emphasize the pivotal role of boards in driving ESG strategies. And we at Competent Boards firmly believe that board of directors should not only be informed about ESG sustainability initiatives, but actually involved in shaping and overseeing them. With diverse expertise and perspectives, boards can provide valuable guidance and strategic direction, ensuring that ESG is integrated into the fabric of the organization, that we align strategy with value creation and with ESG. By embracing this approach, boards can unlock the full potential of sustainable business practices, creating the long-term value for all stakeholders involved. But today, let's focus a little bit more into that ESG magic through the stakeholder engagement and the collaboration that you so nicely talked about before. Board members are the most influential players in a company. They hire, they fire the CEO. They are the guardians of the company's long-term success. They agree, hopefully, on the purpose of the business, set the strategic direction, and make informed decisions about what is best for the company and its stakeholders. One of our faculty members said it like this: we must be proactive in developing long-term visions and strategies that consider regional regulations, customer preferences, and geopolitical factors. It is not enough to fulfill our current commitments. We must also lay the groundwork for the future of our businesses. It is about finding the delicate balance between present and future, planting the trees under those shade we may never sit, as wisely as that is stated by one of our faculty members, Jens Moberg, who is the chairman of Grundfos, the world's largest pump manufacturer. So if we look at that, and in today's interconnected world, there is no organization or individual that can address the complex challenges of sustainability alone. We must recognize that our actions and our decisions have far-reaching consequences that extend beyond our immediate influence. The key to tackling these challenges lies in forging meaningful partnerships and collaborations with various stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement is not a new concept, but its importance has grown exponentially in recent years. We are living through a paradigm shift in the way businesses operate. No longer is profit the sole metrics of success. Instead, companies are expected to be responsible corporate citizens, taking into account the need of all the stakeholders and the expectations of all the stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders? Well, they are not just the shareholders and investors, but encompass a diverse range of individuals and groups. They include employees, customers, suppliers, local communities, NGOs, government bodies, and more, including the activist shareholders, including perhaps even nature, perhaps all of those that at some point will say, what was the purpose of this business? What value did this business give to the world? And each stakeholder brings that unique perspective and expertise that, when harnessed effectively, can lead to innovative and sustainable solutions. You rather want to hear from one of your stakeholders today what kind of products, what kind of solutions they are looking for the future, than find that you are left behind. So use your ears and listen to all of those stakeholders. And to achieve our ESG and sustainability goals, we must also foster a culture of collaboration and inclusivity. Gone are the days of siloed decision-making and top-down approaches. Instead, we must embrace the power of collective intelligence. By involving stakeholders from the very beginning, we can access a wealth of knowledge, experience, and insights that can inform our strategies and shape our actions. When stakeholders feel valued and listened to, they become active participants in the sustainability journey. They become champions of change, helping to drive innovation, foster creativity, and identify new opportunities. By engaging stakeholders, we tap into the collective wisdom, generating ideas that are not only environmentally and socially responsible, but also economically viable. However, stakeholder engagement is not a one-time event or a box-ticking exercise. It requires ongoing dialogue, trust building, and a genuine commitment to collaboration. We must create spaces for open, honest conversations where all stakeholders feel comfortable sharing their perspectives, their concerns, and their aspirations. This inclusivity leads to a sense of ownership and shared responsibility for the outcomes we seek to achieve. Moreover, collaboration extends beyond organizational boundaries. We must foster these multi-stakeholder collaborations that transcend sectors, industries, geographical locations. By working together, we can leverage our respective strengths, pool the resources, tackle systemic challenges that no single entity can solve alone. Through collaboration, we can drive innovation, we can scale up impact, and create lasting change. Now, some may argue that engaging with stakeholders slows down decision-making, it hampers competitiveness. But in reality, the opposite is true. companies that actively involve stakeholders and embed sustainability into their DNA are more resilient. They are more adaptable. They are better positioned to thrive in the long run. Stakeholder collaboration is not a roadblock. It is a catalyst for sustainable growth and shared prosperity. So let us embrace stakeholder engagement and collaboration as powerful tools in our pursuit of ESG and sustainability goals. Let us recognize that the challenges we face are interconnected and our success depends on our collective action. Let us leverage the diversity of perspectives and expertise that stakeholders bring to the table. Together, I can promise you, we can shape a more sustainable future for generations to come. So once again, my heartfelt congratulations to all the honorees, the participants of this ESG World Summit and the GRIT Awards. Your dedication and your achievements are what we need. And I look forward to witnessing the profound impact you will continue to make in the realm of ESG and sustainability. Again, thank you for inviting me, and I hope that competent boards will get the honor of guiding perhaps some of you to an even more impactful in your important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jorgensen, for joining us today and enlightening us. If I could ask Ms. Jorgensen to just wait for 5 minutes, I would love to open up the floor for any question and answers. I'll come around and pass the mic to anyone that has any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Helle Jorgensen? Yes. Before I hand over the mic to Dr. Katia, I would like to thank you personally for being here today, so late for you, and also for judging the applications. So Helle is also a jury for our GRIT Awards. Thank you very much.
Good morning, good evening. So my question is pretty simple, and I think you touched upon the budget, which is always seems to be top of mind. But in your experience, what's the other biggest obstacle to getting the board of directors to kind of change their focus and look at more sustainable business practices within their organizations?
I think one of the things I see is, do we speak the language of the board? Do the board speak the language of sustainability professionals? I think it is that link between sustainability and the strategy. There's a lot that look at this as compliance exercise where we do the tick mark. We don't get any value out of that. I totally get it. I'm a business lawyer, I'm an accountant, so I get it from that perspective. But this is about value creation. It's about resiliency. And I think what we need to do from both a sustainability perspective is to learn to speak the board language. What we need to do from the board perspective is to learn to understand what are all of these interconnected things. It's not just a siloed approach. And I think that might be difficult. Many very, very smart, very competent board members in many aspects have, never been in a situation where they had to deal with inflation, they have to deal with geopolitical issues, they have to deal with climate change issues, they have to deal with nature, biodiversity issues, they have to deal with social. It's all coming at our shoulders now. And to understand that needs to have an approach where we look at all of these things interconnected and not one thing at a time. And I think that might be the biggest thing. And of course, regulations at the moment is a big one. But I fear from time to time that the regulation gets the best of our time and not the strategy discussion. And I think it should be a discussion where we say, 5 years from now, who will be our customers? 5 years from now, who will be our employees? 5 years from now, who will finance us? 5 years from now, who will give us an insurance? there's just a lot of, and if you go that route, you don't need to talk sustainability, you don't need to talk ESG or any other matters or climate, because everyone will know what way we are heading. So I think that might be one of the big thing. Learn to speak the language.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jorgensen. Now, if everyone could look on the back of their cards, please. There are 2 QR codes, one for the agenda and one for the WhatsApp group. So you can, oh, if there are any other questions? Sorry. Yes. We'll start back there. Slowly make our way around.
Hello, Dr. Hellbank. This is JP. So my question is basically there's a lot of talk and discussion. There's so much of energy around ESG and sustainability now. But when you look at what is happening on the ground, it is very little. Mainly because there are quite a few regulations, geography specific, and there are quite a few standards and frameworks to follow and so on. It makes it very, very complex and difficult for companies and institutions who want to adopt ESG. So how do you think, in your view, we will kind of move forward? It's not a 1-year journey. It is going to, it all has to culminate together as we move forward. What do you think, how we will move forward? How are the regulations are going to come together, or are there the broader standards and stuff like that? Sorry, it's a long question, but the gist is very simple. Thank you.
So at the moment, I think I can say that we are going to have the new ISSB, so under IFRS standards coming out here on June 26th is I think the date, so very, very soon. That's standard 1 and 2, mostly looking at climate. There shouldn't be the big surprises there. They've been out. We have all the regulations in terms of the task force for climate related financial disclosures that's coming into also law. We have from a European perspective, those that are selling to the European markets, they will be under a lot of regulations. We have in terms of the US, the SEC. You have a lot of laws and regulations coming up. So I totally agree. There's this tendency to every country have also its own regulation, and we need that standardized, that we know what we are reporting on. I think that is coming. I don't think this is the time where we say, well, let's wait to see what it looks like. I think it's now. Now might be even too late, but it is now to not only look at this again from a reporting perspective, but look at it from a strategic value creation perspective, and then the reporting will follow. You have the SASB standards, that also the ISSB, and sorry for all of these acronyms. There's so many of them out there. But it's look at the standards, look at the scenario planning, and say, how does this fit into the strategy?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, we have time for one more question.
Thank you. Hello, pleasure to meet you. I'm Joe MacDonald, architect from New York. I have a question regarding, you briefly mentioned the C-suite. There's a lot of talk lately about the role of the CSO, the Chief Sustainability Officer. Do you see a rise in that role as far as going beyond sustainability and contributing to corporate strategy?
It's a really good question, and I think we have seen that for a while. It used to be that the chief, not even officer, but the sustainability function was in a corner, and perhaps when they did a great report and we won an award, someone would put that up and say, see, we won an award, and then they could go back to the corner without the budget. That's changing fast. And again, those companies that understand the value creation are embedding that function not as a standalone, but together with investor relation, if it's a listed company, together with the strategy office, together with the procurement, together with the sales team. So because all of this are impacting all of it, if you're thinking about it from an architectural point of view, you don't want to, when you have designed the whole thing, say, oh, I have a better idea, I should have thought about doing this. You want to embed that into your thinking from the start, right? And that's where I think we are at now. We're starting to see that the chief sustainability officer, the good of them, understand the business, and you need to also understand the finance. You need to understand all of these different matters. So it's not a sustainability role. It is actually a strategy role, connecting all the dots, and again, same as also the board of directors, asking questions and this collaboration both internally but also externally.
Thank you.
So just as said before, please look on the back of your cards and you will find the QR codes for today's agenda and the WhatsApp group for networking. Now we'll move on to our next keynote speech from Ms. Marija Pujo Tadic. It is my utmost honor to introduce our next distinguished speaker, Ms. Marija Pujo Tadic, with over 25 years of experience in climate change law and policy. She stands as a true climate leader and ambassador of the EU Climate Pact. As the founder of the International Institute for Climate Action, Ms. Tadic has been at the forefront of driving positive change in Croatia and beyond. Focusing on crucial issues such as climate change and CO2 reduction, her expertise and contributions extend to the international stage, where she has played a pivotal role in climate change negotiations at major global conferences. Today, we are privileged to have Ms. Marija Pujo Tadic share her invaluable insights on climate change. Her vast knowledge and experiences will inspire us all and provide a deeper understanding of the actions necessary to address this global challenge. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Marija Pujo Tadic as she takes the stage.
So, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm thrilled and honored to be here today, and I would like to thank Dr. Nisha Kohli for inviting me and giving me opportunity to talk about my greatest love, climate change and ESG. You heard everything about me, so I can skip this first, let's say, my introductions, because you heard that I'm ambassador of European Union for European Climate Pact, but most important, I'm climate leader. I'm for over 25 years included in this climate story. My mentor was Al Gore to the Climate Reality Project, but also I'm negotiator for many COPs. So that's the reason I've been invited today. So let's start. This presentation today from my side will be, the aim of this presentation will be to get you some overview of the history of ESG, but also ESG in the context of climate change, but also to show you how we collaborate in European Union and how we collaborate all over the world. So let me start. It's not connected? Yeah. So when we are talking about the history of ESG, I would like to remind you the first sentence is coming from our Secretary General, Kofi Annan, 2014, when they said one very important sentence. I propose that you, the businesses, leaders, and we, the United Nations, initiate a global compact of shared values and principles which will give a human face to the global market. What is the most important in this sentence? Human face. What we are doing today with ESG, we are including human face into the market. How? Through our environmental, social, and also governance criteria. What happened 2015 during the Paris Agreement? We, from global policies of climate change, we realized then the climate change and this story wouldn't go alone if we do not include business society and financial sector. And that's a very important thing, because we could do it alone. We have to do it together, as we heard previously. And including ESG, it's not necessary that you are looking on ESG as your enemy, because it is not. It's your friend. Why? Because including ESG, you are including those three very important criteria into business. And each company who includes these criteria becoming very, very important and very fast, they change their business. Why? Because we are changing the business in all around the world. But why is it so important? As you can see, what we are doing in Europe, we draft a lot of decisions and huge legislative. Here you can see the framework of ESG reporting and climate action 2023. Why? Because we are very ambitious. As you know, European Union has the goal to become the first climate neutral continent and first climate neutral economy until 2050. So we are acting very fast and we are doing a lot. We are very active all the time. As you can see, we have a lot of decisions and legislative, like non-financial reporting directive, EU taxonomy, corporate sustainability reporting directive, EU sustainable finance plans, reform on German's Climate Protection Act, European climate law, EU's EU Fit for 55, what is very important for us, and task force on climate related, Green Deal industrial plan, and also ban on fossil fuel ads. So what are the benefits of all of this? Did you ever think about this? What are the real benefits of all of this? All large and most listed companies would be required to apply non-financial reporting standards and seek assurance for reported information. Example, approximately 49,000 companies report such informations. And as you can see, 75% of the turnover of all limited liability companies compared to the current 11,600 companies. But what is the indirect positive impacts of fundamental rights that environment and society, given the strict reporting requirements, can influence corporate behavior for the better? But what are the main goal? What is the aim of all of this story about ESG? It's helping us from climate policies to track how far we have come in achieving the goal of reducing CO2 emissions. I'm witnessing each day into my country and European Union. That's the most problem for the many companies, and I don't know, do you have also these problems, is how to reduce CO2 emissions and how to report about this. That's the main question. That we are calling that climate criteria. And each day I'm getting a lot of questions about this. How we can reduce CO2 emission, how to involve this criteria into our reports. So there are 5 arguments for incorporating ESG strategy into company. If you forget everything what I'm talking about today, please do not forget these very 5 important arguments. Why? Should a risk arise, the bigger the reputation, the less effect it has. A good ESG strategy serves as a mirror of a company's good governance. It sends a message of long-term robust businesses management to clients. Public administration, what is the most important thing, public administration trusts those companies that cooperate in achieving a country's climate goals. Increasing ESG portfolio is investment in corporations that perform well in sustainability. So this is very, very important. What we are doing in Europe, what we are doing in my country. We established our institute 2012. That's a long time ago. We start for the beginning, for all this legislative, for all this climate law, for all this low carbon strategy, adaptation strategy, with everything for the beginning. And our goal was to connect business society and to be a bridge between business society and European Commission in these very important questions. It was a long time ago. So today I have to tell you, because Nisha was also attend in our conference in Croatia, that they are doing it very well because they are very well prepared. Our purpose is also to support the corporate community in combating climate change, lowering CO2 emissions. Of course, introduction, the low carbon plan, adaptation strategy, and European Green Deal. Into of course, their strategy and procedures. The ultimate goal of our institute is that EU to become the first carbon neutral economy by 2050, and Europe to become the first carbon neutral continent, as I said previously. How we can do this? How we can achieve this? Only together. So we decided this year to have first international conference. We starting collaborate with our membership, what becomes the biggest Croatian company, but also the very important international companies like Coca-Cola, Erste Bank, and the other banks in Croatia. So we organized international conference, we organized B2B events, education and certification, and also awards. We got the first education for ESG and certification 4 years ago. So you can imagine how far it was. For ESF and ESB certificates. You can find it out on our web page because it is very important education, because also we got certification from IASE, International Association for Sustainable Economy. That means that those certificates are international. So, this year we organized that conference. The primary goal of informing, raising awareness, and networking the business community and the financial sector in order to achieve the quickest possible transition to a low carbon sustainable economy through collaborative efforts. So our keynote was the Mr. As you can see, Javier Manzanares, Zanden. He was running a Green Climate Fund for a long time, and the main goal is to share his experience about how introduce this criteria into business and how to find a way for the financial sector to financing some projects. What is the most important? Everybody asking, where are the money? How we can do this? Where we can find money for our projects and so on. And on this conference, we got a lot of answers about this. Also, we have a very nice collaboration with Corpstage. We organized pre-selection process. Why? To establish for businesses and financial sector to apply for this ESG award process. Why? Because we realize that companies are much more motivated if they are awarded for their business. And if they can show what they did in this ESG criteria, how fast they include ESG criteria into business. So that's the reason we also have collaboration with Dr. Kohli. How we are functioning, it is very important, and please do not forget that we are doing this, all of this through the 5 very important things: educating, networking, empowerment, integrating, and rewarding. But with 2 very important principles that everybody forgets when they are talking about ESG. And those principles are ethics and transparency. Without that, we could not fight against greenwashing. And that's the main point of ESG. So, what is the aim? The aim is to improve business and to save the planet together. So thank you very much. Thank you that you can find everything on our web pages, and we were thankful for your collaboration. And now I would like to show you one video, how the business society see our collaboration. Thank you very much.
Institute for Climate Action for giving us the opportunity to speak with Corpstage regarding our application to the ESG award, to get their feedback and to see their thoughts on our sustainability efforts. I think cooperation like this one are very important because we get to see the experts' point of view, and those experts also get to see the company's pain points. So once again, thank you International Institute for Climate Action and Corpstage for this opportunity.
Extend our sincere gratitude to Ms. Tadic for her captivating keynote speech. We'll be opening time for a Q&A session. If anyone have a question for Ms. Tadic, please raise your hand. Yeah, all right. So we will invite Dr. Nisha to come up and give a token of appreciation to you. Yeah.
We'd like to request Mr. Rajiv Rawat to give a bouquet of flowers to Ms. Marija as a token of thanks.
As we move forward with our event, we are thrilled to present a captivating fireside chat focused on leading innovations for sustainability. In this session, we have the privilege of witnessing a dynamic conversation between two esteemed individuals who have dedicated their careers to shaping a greener and more sustainable future.
Mr. Joe MacDonald served as the Principal and Global Chief Sustainability and Energy Officer at Urban A&O and a prominent New York design firm. He brings a wealth of expertise to the table, complemented by his role as a visiting professor from architecture at several esteemed universities. His outstanding achievements include a PhD in architecture from Harvard University and a remarkable collection of accolades, such as the Architecture Magazine Vanguard Award and the New York AIA New Practices Award.
Mr. MacDonald's groundbreaking research delves into impactful areas such as impact investing, climate change, and the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. His innovative thinking and commitment to sustainability have reshaped the architectural landscape, leaving an indelible mark on the industry.
So we will have a bouquet present to Mr. Joe MacDonald.
Please join us on stage.
Please join us on stage. Today we will also have Dr. Katia Chaban engaging in a stimulating conversation with Mr. MacDonald. Together we'll delve into the realm of sustainable architecture and the critical role it plays in shaping our future. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Katia Chaban.
All right, they said stimulating conversation, so I think they reset some expectations.
Yes.
I'm actually super excited to be able to talk to you. So a lot of the work that you've done specifically with data centers, because I've spent my life in technology and data centers, so to hear your perspectives is very, very exciting. But we'll start with the first question. You were associate professor at Harvard University when you founded Urban A&O. What inspired you to start this company, and what was it like transitioning from, I know this one, academic to entrepreneurial?
It's a great question. So I was on faculty at Harvard from the year 2000 to 2010, and I formed Urban A&O in the year 2004. And so my initial research focus at Harvard was on, believe it or not, on biophilia, forms and patterns found in nature. There's a very famous book by Ernst Haeckel, where he too was fascinated by plant life and the organizational structures of plant life. But at the time, I was also, my role as a faculty member was to computational design tools for the students to use. And so very briefly, the software that I chose is called Katia, which is by Dassault Systems out of Paris. And it's used in the aerospace and automotive industry. It's a very complex computational tool, but it allowed me to explore patterns digitally.
Interesting. And so just out of curiosity, because a lot of what we see in kind of the circular economy and looking at nature in a circular fashion, so it's interesting to hear that that's what you were studying and how important it is for design. So talking about design, your company, then this is the cool stuff, has designed a net zero data center called the Helsinki Hybrid in Finland. And so when you designed that, what did you consider inside the design specifically for a data center?
Let me see if we can get the first image up. Yes, so let's just look at this one for a moment. Data centers are one of our core competencies, one of many. And this project is a very near and dear one to my heart because it combines many of our core competencies, and I'll explain that. What you're looking at here is a 30 megawatt data center which has been co-located in the heart of Helsinki. Typically, data centers are found on the outskirts of town. They're not particularly attractive. They're very functional. But what we're seeing is a rise in the number of data centers around the world, and that is because of, for example, crypto. That is because of the advancement of AI, artificial intelligence. We just simply can't build them fast enough. But they are incredibly energy intensive. So for example, data centers use in excess of 2% of the world's electricity, which is very problematic. So typically, because data centers are so hot inside with all the data racks, we can't get them to net zero. We can get them to carbon neutral. So this is the first net zero data center on the planet. And we did that through a variety of means. So very quickly, if we look at the international landscape of data centers, for example, we can recycle water in the United States to cool the data racks. In the EU and Scandinavia, it is illegal to use water because of water usage concerns. So we have to air dry air cool the data racks. So what we have done in this project, I don't see the diagram. We can just sit here. So what we have done is there is the data center, which is in the core of the building. And of course, the building is organized around temperature and humidity. So the data center is dry and hot. And then, of course, data centers, of course, cybersecurity is a big issue with data centers. So what we have done here is we have clad the data center with automated vertical farming, which has never been done before. So what it does is a couple of different things. It hides the data center from public view, and it also produces, vertical farming produces approximately 350 times traditional in-ground produce farming. And of course, with ground temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius, in India, across the EU, in California. This is the future, vertical farming. And also in particular, in Scandinavia, they have to fly their produce in from the Netherlands. So, for example, a tomato costs about €1 in Helsinki. Now, what we have done is we have provided, a wealth of produce for Helsinki residents, and it's sold at a marketplace below the data center. So that eliminates Scope 3 emissions, which is quite an achievement. And then finally, the data center is wrapped with a helical greenhouse. And so that is considered a public amenity in Helsinki. So we get a subsidy from Finland for the greenhouse. And of course, it contributes to public life within the city. And so the heat reuse from the data center warms the greenhouse. And so there's no heat loss. And it is, producing this public experience. And in addition to, we have embedded a data center within the city through a park itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm used to seeing, like you said, on the outskirts of town, a big brick building or cement building, really not particularly pretty. So what you've designed, essentially, if in looking at it, there's no way you would identify this as a data center, but you've wrapped it in greenery, you've wrapped it in farming, and essentially are recycling or recirculating that heat to create food that goes back into this community. So we've covered how many ESG indicators right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So let me ask you, so from a sustainability strategy, very clear, like emissions are taken out, there's food. One of the other concerns, and you talked about cybersecurity, but what about environmental challenges? And I guess that's why we've seen a lot of these brick and mortar types of data centers.
Yes.
Are there concerns about those physical types of issues that could hit a data center, which would be impactful to businesses?
The data center itself has its own security measures. For example, the cladding of the data center is high-strength steel, but you just simply don't see that. And so that's kind of the client was really thrilled about that. Yeah.
Right.
And it was a collaboration between the local government and the client. So.
What about any waste management?
Yes. All right. So there, below the data center, below the building, there are several other things going on. There is an anaerobic digester. Now, the anaerobic digester takes the waste material from the vertical farming. So, for example, leaves that need to be removed, or any biomass that is robotically maintained in the vertical farm goes into the anaerobic digester, which produces biogas, which can be used again. There's also a wastewater treatment plant below grade, and so that recirculates the water, and which is used then for irrigation of the park you saw at the beginning. Yeah.
Wow.
So the entire project revolves around a mindset of circularity.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so I guess the question is, when are these going to be the data center of the whole world?
Well, it's interesting because we present this project to many of the hyperscalers. For example, Microsoft, Meta, Apple. Apple, Google, and they're blown away by this idea. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't, when I sometime in my research look at some of the data centers and what they're doing just to manage their carbon emissions and manage the heat and all that. And this is like the sci-fi movie. This is light years away. Let's switch a little bit. Actually, one more question. E-waste.
Yes.
In the data centers, how are those handled end of life?
Okay, let's talk about the life cycle of the building very quickly. So when you build new, and this is a new building, so we can talk about decarbonization later. That's what you do within an existing building. But this is a new building, and whenever you build new, you always have to be thinking about embodied carbon, which is what happens when you build a new building. And then over the life cycle of the building, you have to think about operational carbon. And so we monitor, typically the role of the architect used to be where you would build the building, hand it over to the keys to the client, and then you would go on to your next project. We don't do that anymore. We stick with the building and the life cycle of the building using tools like one-click LCA, life cycle analysis, or CODOT tool. So we, as architects, are responsible for the performance of the building over its entire lifetime. Yeah.
So that's definitely a change in design. Like you said, a lot of things that are created today, you create it, and then somebody else is responsible for it, and you don't have that continuity or the accountability associated with what that thing does to our environment that was created initially.
Right.
So this is wonderful. So let's talk about then the e-waste.
I do want to address that. Not only e-waste, but also material waste.
Okay.
So the building was designed parametrically, and it's a modular construction. So those components can be disassembled and reused, and we call that not recycling, we call that upcycling.
Right.
And then as far as e-waste, so when we talk about e-waste is referring to circuit boards and anything electronic. And of course, data centers are full of electronic devices. So those can also be repurposed. They can be, circuit boards can be refurbished and reused for other reasons. And so with this particular building, there are plans for engaging with the larger community in waste pickup, management, and transfer of the building at the end of its life. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, because e-waste is a problem. We see lots of pictures about how e-waste even impacts health in communities where it gets shipped off to. So listening to your entire materials and how that's being upcycled and changed is very, very exciting. But again, it all comes back to design.
Right. And you see piles of laptops and iPhones, and they're just in a dump. And so our plans for this building will mitigate that. We will not be contributing to that.
Oh, that's fabulous. All right, let's change the focus from data centers to, I guess, what we call smart cities. Maybe you can talk to us a little about your design principles to make smart cities and what that actually means.
Yes. So the one thing that I forgot to mention is there's a really important term here called industrial symbiosis. So what does that mean? That means two systems that are complementary, and each of them when combined, produce something greater. So for example, the data center and the vertical farm are working in collaboration with each other in something called industrial symbiosis. Yeah. So,
so in your smart cities.
yes. So when we talk about smart cities, Scandinavia is a great example of where we find the origins of smart cities. There's a misnomer about smart cities that they have something completely related to technology. That is not entirely true. Smart cities, the way we use it in our office, because it is yet another one of our core competencies, we call them socially, environmentally, and financially responsible cities. So,
that makes a lot of sense, because I'm used to hearing how smart cities, you build into the grid the improvements to stoplights and traffic control and those types of things, which obviously
that's
is great
part of it.
Yeah, and that's great for the safety of folks, but you're wrapping more into the smart.
Yeah, it's also the mentality of the residents. So for example, walkability, cycling, it used to be the 15-minute city, where everything was within 15 minutes walk from your home. We're now talking about the 5-minute city. So this is getting off on another topic, but we're currently in the United States, we're designing 5 net zero community developments, and they are all based on circularity, zero waste, prefabrication, and no cars. So.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, so you kind of touched upon consumerism then a little bit. You talked about consumer, and we heard customer or consumer preferences before. No cars in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about that. It was very interesting. We had a dinner last night, and the topic of electric vehicles came up. Electric vehicles are not the answer, to many of Americans' surprise. Electric public transportation is the answer. So, we will never get rid of the automobile probably for 30 years in the United States. However, we can transition over to public transportation, electrified public transportation. And that is happening in pilot cities across the world, around the world. And it has already taken off. Scandinavia, they knew this 20 years ago,
right.
But now we're learning it in America, which is very interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting, and I think, and from what I'm learning, is consumer behavior is an interesting thing. And we're so used to certain ways of living and doing things. It's going to be interesting to see how people then adjust to these types of changes, or are there various principles in your smart city design that kind of address kind of changing that consumer view?
Yeah. So what you were referring to is the curve that is going to occur between now and that end goal. And so it is transitional. So for example, the first thing that we're doing is we're relegating parking to to a series of locations within the community. So you no longer have a driveway and a garage. You park collectively 5 minutes away.
But then I have to walk to get my car
yes,
in the winter.
Yes, you do. But see, this is the benefit. What people are going to realize is that, the air is actually fresh. And, you can have there can be a community garden, 5 minutes away. You can actually talk to your neighbor. All of these social benefits that Americans just simply, don't know about, but it'll be a transition for the better.
Wow, that's exciting, because, you know, some of the other problems, you know, to go back to your electric vehicle, you know, trying to be smart, you know, I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to resolve the where do you plug your car in situation, especially in Manhattan or cities like New York City where you don't have a lot of parking.
Yeah.
And you're kind of taking it a step further, say, hey, you know, let's just remove this barrier and make kind of these community areas. And not only are we going to eliminate the need for cars and those types of problems and how to plug them in the emissions, but we're also going to probably address some of the social problems that we're feeling today after COVID around loneliness and you know, the social impacts of those things, and improving that for the health of humanity.
Yeah, this is where we do address as you know, as a community, as a nation, you know, as a society, where we do address ESG, because what we're realizing, COVID had a massive effect around the world on the human psyche. We came out of COVID with kind of a new value system, a new ethical system, where, for example, the idea of you know, greening our cities really started to take hold around the world. And this includes, in Europe, it includes London, Paris, Vienna. All of these cities are making these commitments, greening commitments. And one of the environmental benefits of this is that we no longer, like New York City, have these heat sinks within the city. So for example, if you were to look at a heat map of the greater metropolitan New York City area, you're going to see these massive red heat sinks. And that's because of, you know, all the asphalt, all the concrete, all the highways. And what we're seeing, and this is where, again, the social aspect of it, we can take Boston as an example. Not only do we need to green the city, but we also need to green the underserved. So Boston, Mayor Wu, for example, is part of, everybody may know of C40 cities. C40 cities is a collection of, I believe it's almost 100 cities around the world that have made this commitment to greening their cities. And it includes the disadvantaged. So it's not just for the wealthy communities, it's for the entire city. And Boston is a great example of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
we're off topic, but this is very interesting.
Well, you know, when we talk about smart cities, though, I mean, that's, again, not just the technology component of how do you make traffic lights better so the traffic's better for people and the safety, but now you're bringing, from a smart perspective, bringing green back to everybody, and the social aspect of ESG. Health benefits of having the greenery. So those images that we see on LinkedIn or Instagram where this was once the city and it's full of cars and traffic and it's now transformed to shrubberies and trees and community gardens, it sounds like that's what the C40 initiative is focused on doing.
It's very much part of the C40 ethos, without a doubt. You know, just quickly, the Bloomberg administration, Bloomberg was mayor for 3 terms. Under his administration, one of the first things they did was they transformed Broadway. Of course, in New York City is a grid. There's a diagonal street, which we all know, called Broadway. They cordoned off Broadway to be a public corridor through the city. You know, much to everyone's kind of horror, especially taxi drivers. Right. But in effect, it has transformed the city into a very livable place.
Right, right. Besides the data center that we spoke about, and then some of these concepts, are there other projects that you can share with us that are part of what your organization is focused on?
We, as an international architecture firm, we made a commitment to go carbon neutral in 2017, and that was before anybody else did. Now we are committed to net zero, and so what does that mean? That means that we are aiming at zero emissions on all our buildings.
So talk to me about that, because you know, when I hear about building, right? So now you're going to construct something, and typically you're dealing with cement and those, and there's very high emissions associated with those products. They're very stable though and strong.
Yes.
And so when you're talking about reducing that, what does that look like for you?
This is where research, our firm is essentially a research and design firm. So research into emerging materials is critical. So when we talk about concrete, we need to talk about concrete around the world. So for example, even in Africa, it's so easy to build with concrete. Now, the problem with concrete is that it has, and Portland cement is the CO2 emitter. So we need to replace Portland cement, and we do, with an organic binder. So for example, we're building a community upstate New York in Hudson Valley. And rather than using concrete, we're using rammed earth, which is an old technique from the southwest of the United States, but you can use it almost anywhere. And so it too used to have a bit of Portland cement in it, but now we have found there's an organic binder that's been invented. So now there is no Portland cement anymore. Yeah.
Wow. And so even for those of you that haven't been to upstate New York, our winters are no fun, very, very cold. So even that kind of substance can hold up to the snow and the blizzards and the ice of Western New York winters. Structural rammed earth, which is very thick, is a thermal break. So even the coldest climate, we can use rammed earth. So. Wow. So we've talked about your data centers, smart cities, your priorities for decarbonization, which is incredible because of today's the carbonization. What other incredible priorities do you guys have within your organization? What do you want to see? Or let me ask this question off the topic, but you're doing some incredible things now. Where do you want to see cities in 5 to 10 years? What's your vision? Well, our focus right now, we are working in NEOM in Saudi Arabia. So and they have very high sustainability standards. So we're actually working in the Octagon region with 3 American clients building manufacturing plants. Wow. And our sustainability credentials actually exceed NEOM's criteria. So, wow. So that's one thing. But the other thing that probably is more impactful than building in NEOM is what's happening in America with the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, we're working with an investment bank who's taking advantage of that. So we're building net zero communities funded by that investment bank. And the focus of the Inflation Reduction Act is we have a massive housing shortage in the US. So the focus of the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, is for middle to low income housing.
So we're building that across America right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge
So
problem.
we think about a social construct. That's quite interesting.
It is. So you're not just ticking the box of saving the planet, environment.
Right.
You're incorporating a lot of what we see as far as ESG indicators into what you're doing as far as your strategy.
We actually among the firm we don't the term ESG we don't really talk about it. We actually we live it. You know, embedded within the work that we do.
Right.
So we do it every day. You know, from a certainly environmental point of view, within the firm, the diversity among the team is incredible. And we have our staff are worldwide, representing almost every country. Wow. And from a governance point of view, that's where I come in. As the CEO, CSO. So,
right. Let me ask you one more question, kind of off topic a little bit, but recently I've come across, and I can't remember the author, but Back to Design Principles. So, you know, I'm used to designing, you know, when we did software engineering, it was all about human-centered design.
Yeah.
But now there's a phrase called humanity-centered design. Mm-hmm. Does that ring a bell, or is that anything that's...
Yeah, so for the last 20 years, corporate architecture firms have all grabbed onto that human-centric design. And they're primarily focused on the workplace. Now, there was a massive rupture to the workplace design during COVID. Right. So we will never go back to that. And the idea of working from home is here to stay. So now we're into this concept of humanity, and that surely goes beyond the workplace.
Right.
So
let's hope.
Yeah. Well, there's now a clear distinction that's. I think it's shared by all, that work is not family, and family is not work. So there is this resurgence of privacy, of a family. You know, the whatever constitutes a family in today's terms. You know, those values are resurging, and it doesn't mean that you know, work isn't essential, and that you know, that's where we spend the majority of our time, and we make the majority of our contributions at work. But we have a different mindset now about the difference between work and home.
Right. Well, I thought this was fascinating, and I want to thank you so much. I want to see more of these data centers all around the world. So you want some help, somebody going in and busting the doors down for Amazon, Microsoft, whoever. We need more of these, and I really am excited about some of these communities that you're building. So thank you so much for what you do.
It's such a pleasure. It's so great. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the insightful discussion. I would like to request you to present the award to Mr. MacDonald.
Oh. Well, you get a beautiful, sparkly award for all the great work that you do. Thank you so much. That was a great conversation. That was. Thank you. Oh. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now let's proceed to the next presentation of our agenda today for session 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we introduce our next esteemed speaker, Mr. GJ. As a Managing Director at Xynteo and Senior Advisor at Sustainable Leadership at Sasin School of Management, he brings a wealth of experience and expertise to our event. Dr. GJ is a renowned sustainability expert who is dedicated to helping companies redefine their leadership approaches and drive systematic change. His invaluable contributions have made a significant impact on top leadership teams of global giants such as Unilever, IKEA, and MasterCard. Ladies and gentlemen, please clap your hands once again for Dr. GJ.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Nisha and team, for bringing everyone together. I must say, the last Fireside chat was super inspiring. I really enjoyed listening to it. It was without physical fire, so low carbon Fireside chat. But I love to see the Helsinki data center example, right? It shows how if you look at it, if you look at problems from a systemic level, you start to see opportunities to connect the dots and to address multiple sustainability challenges at the same time, and then it does become possible to go to net zero. So really inspiring. Thank you for that. But I'm here actually to talk about something else. And I'd like to start, I'd love to see a show of hands, actually. I see that we have the room full of sustainability experts and converts already. I don't think I need to convince you about the fact that the world needs to transition to more sustainable models. But who of you are optimistic about the transition? Who of you think that in the next 10 to 15 years we'll actually see a successful transition to more sustainable models? Can I see some hands? I see some hands, some of them more convinced, some of them a bit hesitant. Who of you are pessimistic? Who of you think that we'll actually see a lot of hardship and drama over the next 10, 15 years? Okay, a few hands there too. Well, let's have a look. So this is the last update on the SDGs. The SDGs that were set for achievement by 2030. And as you can see, we're not doing great. Red or orange means that we're running behind. There are significant or major challenges wherever you see red or orange. So the conclusion is we're not going to reach the SDGs in 2030. We're running behind too far. And this shows, and history has also shown us, that it's easy to make big commitments, but it's not easy to deliver on them. This is one of the biggest commitments that we're collectively making, also the one that you probably hear most about. Our commitment to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees, right? To stick to that, to meet the Paris Agreement, we need to reduce greenhouse gases by 45% by the year 2030 compared to 2010 levels. With all the commitments made by governments around the world, we're still going to go up 10% by 2030, right? This is going to increase the risk of catastrophic climate change with all of the impacts that come with that. So we're running out of time for marginal improvements of our business as usual models, and we need to start thinking about much more radical systemic change to address this. Swiss Re, which is one of the biggest insurance companies in the world, they estimate that on the current trajectory, the world's GDP is going to be reduced by between 11 and 14% by the year 2050 because of all the impact of climate change. Some parts of the world, like where we are today, are going to be much more affected. Southeast Asia's GDP could go down by as much as 30% by 2050, right? I mean, a lot of companies are addressing this as we hear, and there is great progress being made. But collectively, we're running behind. And as I said, we need to start thinking about much more systemic ways of addressing these challenges. And I often have to think about a leader that I had the privilege of knowing quite well through my work, Paul Polman, the former CEO of Unilever. He used to say, we need more trees and we need more leaders. And I think he was very right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about leadership in this bigger picture. Here's the good news, though, right? There's a perfect storm shaping up around sustainable transition. We see in those last few years, we see governments, regulators, the financial world, companies, company leaders, even consumers and talent, all pushing in the same direction, driving for a transition to more sustainable models. Just to give you a couple of numbers, at the moment we have all those national commitments that are made to net zero. They're covering 88% of all the global greenhouse gas emissions. So there's no lack of commitments there. You have regulations in some parts of the world actually impacting other parts of the world. In Europe now we have the carbon border adjustment mechanism kicking in 2026. That's going to force anyone who exports to Europe to meet European standards. So regulations don't only count in the geography where they're being implemented. Enormous amounts of money are becoming available. The European Union is mobilizing 1.1 trillion euros to drive a transition, a just transition towards more sustainable models. 1.1 trillion euros, just to give you an idea, after the Second World War, when Europe was in ruins, the Marshall Funds were put together. In today's money, the Marshall Funds were $115 billion. So Europe today is making available 10 times as much to drive the sustainable transition. Investors, the financial world is following, right? Sustainable assets under management are booming all over the world because they're performing better than traditional investments, right? Again, this part of the world in Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific is the fastest growing area in the world for sustainable assets under management. It's from a small base, but it's expected to triple in the next 3 years. Right, so a lot of money is becoming available. It's going to triple to something like $3.3 trillion here in this part of the world. So a lot of money is becoming available, and companies are responding to that. Almost half of all the big companies in the world have committed to net zero, to go to net zero over the next few decades. Those companies represent $26 trillion in business. That means that these companies and their supply chains will radically change to meet those net zero targets. So there's some very powerful things happening, and consumers are actually also showing that they're more loyal to purpose-driven brands. Talent, the best young people, they want to work for companies that are purpose-driven. They want to work for companies that are working on societal issues, and they're often willing to work for less money, and they work harder, right? So there are a lot of good things happening, and we see companies responding to this. I've been working for the last decade with some of the world's biggest multinationals in their sustainability transition, and we're all finding out how to be more sustainable. This is an ongoing journey, but we've been able to see a pattern in the way companies evolve, in the way they look at sustainability. So there's a change in mindset from the old-fashioned stakeholder shareholder primacy mindset to a mindset of what I would call systemic prosperity. On the one end of the spectrum, we have the very basic mindset of just caring about making as much profit for your shareholders as possible. Those companies have often very little or no CSR happening. There might be a little bit of philanthropy happening if the owner is in a good mood, but that's kind of an old-fashioned model that you still see around. But as we start seeing more regulations come in on health and safety and environmental aspects, you start to see that companies, they become more caring about meeting those regulations, of course. And this is where they take on a compliance mindset. They want to make sure that they're not one of the bad guys. It's really interesting because what you see here is that the sustainability function in companies often shifts here from where it maybe used to be initially in a health and safety and quality department. It moves often to the communications department, right? CSR in that phase is often a bit of a PR exercise. But as companies realize that sustainability aspects actually have a material impact on business, there's a risk there of supply chain disruptions, there are legal risks, there are reputational risks. Companies start taking this from a risk management perspective, and this is where you often see the sustainability function moving to the financial department. The head of finance will be driving the sustainability exercise because they take a much more structured approach to assessing the risks that come with sustainability aspects. But then there's a whole new way of looking at sustainability, and this is what I call the competitive awakening that some companies have. These are companies that realize that if you are serious about sustainability, you become more resilient as a company. Your innovation is superior to companies that don't focus on sustainability. You attract the best talent. Your cost of capital goes down. So these companies, they use sustainability as a driver of innovation and new growth. And this is where you see sustainability taking on a much more strategic role. This is also where you see you see the chief sustainability officer come on the scene, and companies starting to collaborate with their supply chains for solutions, more of a scope 3 approach. And then finally, there's the most advanced type of company is what I would call the companies with transformational leadership. These are companies with leaders that have purpose and a bigger vision. They drive change not only in their own organizations, but they also feel responsible for the bigger system that they're part of. So instead of organizing themselves in industry associations to lobby for their industry interests, they actually mobilize stakeholders across industry to address bigger systemic issues. So this is the evolution that we see, and I'm sure I'm sure you have a feeling of where you are, where your companies are in this evolution, and I hope you're thinking about where next to go. But this is a graphic that I always like to show. So as you saw from the last slide, there are two sides to this sustainability transition. If you have a business as usual mindset, the sustainability transition is probably going to cost you money, because in many cases it requires upfront investment, etc. But there's also a tremendous opportunity for new growth. So companies need to take a tactical mindset, make sure that they comply, make sure that they manage the risks, but they also need to make space for a more strategic mindset, a focus on new growth opportunities that is out there. And this is very significant. The economic opportunity for Southeast Asia. There was a report that came out by Bain & Company, and I see that the number disappeared from the slide here, but Bain & Company, they estimated that the economic opportunity of the sustainability transition in Southeast Asia is about $1 trillion per year by the year 2030. To compare that, the combined GDP of Southeast Asia is 3.7 trillion. So there's a tremendous economic opportunity, but it requires companies to think not only tactically, but also strategically. So let's make, let me make a little bridge here to skills and talent and employment, which is really what my talk is about. There are two sides to the sustainability transition. One of them is that 800 million people in the world, that's about a quarter of the world's workforce, work in climate sensitive, climate vulnerable sectors. Think of agriculture that will see production reduced because of climate change. Think about the heavy industries, the carbon intensive industries, and the fossil fuel energy sectors that will see more and more regulation come in and more disruption happening. The expectation is that those sectors that we might lose 80 million jobs this decade in those sectors. But at the same time, there's also tremendous growth opportunity. If we embrace the sustainability transition, if we proactively drive, accelerate the sustainability transition, we can generate 300 million new jobs by the year 2050. And 170 million of those are in this part of the world, will be in Asia Pacific. So there's a very clear incentive for companies and governments here in Asia Pacific to try to accelerate that transition. Some of these jobs are very specific, and to have a look at the energy sector, we're expecting the energy sector, the traditional energy sector, to lose about 6 million jobs this decade. But there could be 24 million jobs created in new energy sectors, solar, wind, hydrogen, etc. So there's a strong incentive and there's a strong upside here. But there's one aspect that we need to start focusing on. The demand for ESG talent, the demand for green skills has been growing by about 8% per year over the last 5 years. But the supply of green talent has only grown by 6% per year. So we're predicting, and this statistic comes from LinkedIn, who actually have surprisingly interesting data on that. There's going to be a shortage of ESG talent in the world by the year 2026. That's very soon, right? So we need to start thinking about that. So what is the type of talent that we're talking about? Today, there's a very high demand for what I would call more operational, specialized talent. Specialized skills. So think about sustainability managers or sustainability specialists, environmental specialists, solar or wind engineers, those type of people that can do greenhouse gas accounting. There's a very high demand for that. That's where most of the demand is coming from today. But we also see a whole enabling ecosystem evolve around the sustainability transition. And this is a sign that the transition is maturing, right? We see policy areas, governments hiring a lot of ESG talent. In New Zealand, the government is the biggest hirer of green talent at the moment. We see in finance, the financial sector is hiring a lot of ESG talent. Think about private equity sustainability analysts. In China, that's one of the biggest sectors hiring ESG talent. Education is hiring a lot of ESG talent to pass on that knowledge to the new leaders that are going to be out there. In Singapore, the educational sector is the biggest hirer of green talent. You have audit and advisory companies adding tens of thousands of ESG people to their workforces. And of course, there's the whole startup community. In places like the Netherlands, where I'm originally from, 10% of all the people working for new startups work for impact startups. The whole impact startup scene has received $200 billion in funding over the last 5 years. That's very significant. Most of that is the US and Europe, but it's starting to happen in Asia as well. So we need to try to feed that startup scene, encourage the startup scene to become more impact oriented. The place where I teach and work right now, Sasin School of Management, we've been running the Bangkok Business Challenge for 20 years already. This is Asia's longest running student startup competition. 1,700 teams from 50 plus countries have passed through that competition. 30% of them have actually incorporated, and they've raised something like $230 million altogether. We're pushing everyone in that challenge to become more impact oriented. So there are ways in which we can help that ecosystem develop. And finally, the first speaker, Helle, she mentioned this already. We also see sustainability talent in demand at a more strategic level. You see the chief sustainability officer come in because companies need people that pull together all the sustainability initiatives, pull it together at the top of the organization and drive a sustainability culture in organizations so that decisions taken at all levels in an organization take sustainability considerations into account. So just to have a closer look at the Chief Sustainability Officer, this is one of the fastest growing positions at the moment. And the interesting news also is that Chief Sustainability Officers or the sustainability heads in companies are moving into the boardroom. Here's some data that shows that 28% at a worldwide level, 28% of heads of sustainability are actually at C-level or one level below that, or at executive level. That number has tripled just in the last 5 years. And you see that the USA and Europe have an even higher percentage. But things are starting to happening as well in Asia Pacific. So we see that there's more and more demand for strategic level sustainability people. And there are various ways of addressing this skills gap. Of course, there's one way in which business schools can actually play a big role, and that is in developing transformational leaders, and I will come back to that in a little bit. But another way that we see companies do this is upskilling of existing talent. So upskilling of non-green talent to green talent. And you see companies really invest a lot of money in this. Standard Chartered, big financial organization, is skilling all of its 85,000 employees with skills on sustainability, so deeper knowledge of sustainable finance products, deeper knowledge of regulations. You see an organization like EY is actually, it's offering a free sustainability MBA to all of its over 300,000 people. And they do that together with Holt International Business School. So talking about very big strategic bets that some of these companies are making, right? So they're really, they see how important this is. And finally, enabling ecosystems. Here we have, for instance, companies like Microsoft. Microsoft is developing tools and material to teach sustainability at primary and secondary school level and beyond that. Here in Thailand, you have organizations like the Stock Exchange of Thailand that is working on sustainability courses for all of its members. Thai Bev has its Thai Bev Academy that is teaching sustainability insights to basically all the Thai Supply Chain Association members. So there's a lot happening to drive things in the right direction and to build that pool of sustainability talent. And I would say especially for this part of the world, especially for Southeast Asia, it is incredibly important to start building that pool of ESG talent. Without the sustainability talent, Southeast Asia is not going to reach its sustainability goals. It's going to be a bottleneck if the talent is not there. Right? So this also needs to be, this cannot, lie on the shoulders of companies and business schools alone. There needs to be a proactive policy from a government level to drive the development of an ESG talent pool. And so I would say yes, we need greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, but we also need targets for the development of green talent. And we need funding to stimulate initiatives that scale the green talent pool. I know here in Thailand there's very good work happening focusing on the unskilled or semi-skilled people to bring them in into more sustainable roles. But I would actually encourage the government here also to spend more attention on building the leadership, ESG leadership talent pool. So I mentioned the role of business schools in this before. So business schools actually, they play a pivotal role in all of this. In the same way that we taught students in the last decades of the 20th century to think about shareholder value maximization, Milton Friedman's idea. In the same way we can teach leaders today about the importance of driving more sustainable models, right? And we can teach leaders to take the right decisions when they go out there and manage their companies. So in Sasin we do that actually in very deliberate and concrete ways. We try to we teach transformational leadership for societal impact, and we basically develop these skills that you see here in our students. So we try to create purpose-driven leaders with contextual mindfulness, with an understanding of the system that they operate in, with empathy for the stakeholders in that system. We make sure that they have the collaborative skills, that they have the intergenerational thinking and the scenario thinking that is needed to really create long-term positive impact. So this is what we do as business schools. But then we also, I want to bring this to your attention, there's also the need for upskilling that I mentioned before. So in early 2024, we're going to launch the postgraduate diploma in corporate sustainability. This is a 20-day blended learning certificate program that will actually take executive leaders in companies. It'll give these leaders all the skills and understanding to really drive a sustainability transition in their organizations and integrate it into all the functional areas. So this is kind of a crash course. It's a very intensive, but it's a crash course to upskill existing leaders to that level where we need them. So yeah, let me kind of try to wrap it up here. The sustainability transition is accelerating. It comes with tremendous opportunities for Southeast Asia, tremendous challenges, but also opportunities. Developing a green talent pool will be crucial for Southeast Asia to achieve its sustainability objectives, to achieve its climate goals. So we need to start developing those leaders, both in the public and in the private sector. The decisions that our leaders will be taking, that our company leaders will be taking in the next 5 years are basically going to determine the commercial success of the companies and the well-being of society for the next 50 years or more. So it's important to start thinking about how you're going to address your green talent challenge and develop a strategy around that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. GJ, for such an inspiring speech. Please stay on stage, as I would like to invite Mr. Arshid Padi, co-founder of Corpstage, to present a token of appreciation. Now it's time for a 20 minutes break to stretch our legs and grab some refreshments. We kindly request everyone to return promptly at 12, and as we will resume our engaging discussions.
Also at the cafeteria or at the tea and coffee, you'll find marine collagen. So you can put that in your tea or coffee, and it has some really great benefits for your skin, hair, bones, and joints.
Yep. Enjoy your break. Thank you.